Good evening, this is Pete Murray speaking to you from the Pickwick Club, London, England. Like a lot of people in this particular part of the world, I'm a regular down here, and I've heard a lot of groups since I became a disc jockey in 1900, and some of them good, some of them bad, but none more exciting than the Peddlers. Their fan club reads like Who's Who: Johnny Mathis, Gino Washington, Paul Jones, John Barry, the Small Faces, disc jockey Simon D., the Beatles, Spike Milligan, Harry Seacombe, drama critic Milton Schulman, Herman, Mike and Bernie Winters, Frank Sinatra, Max Bygraves, and actually here in the audience tonight, we're pleased to see Bill Wyman of the Stones, Hank Marvin and Bruce Welch, Johnny Rostel of the Shadows, and Jeremy Clyde on a flying visit from the United States. Anyway, Roy, as you're nearest the microphone, perhaps you'd like to tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hello, Roy Phillips in Christchurch, New Zealand. It's great to have you on the show.
It's great to be here with you, Nick.
Fantastic, Roy. Well, it's good to hear that voice of yours, that very deep voice.
I suppose the flu might have had some part about that. We copped it a little while ago, but all is well now.
Yeah, it's going around here too. Anyway, Roy, let's start. You were born in a place called Parkstone, Dorset.
That's right, yes, that's right on the south coast, right smack in the middle of the south coast, in between Bournemouth and Poole.
Okay, so how far from London are we talking?
108 miles. Don't ask me to confirm in kilometres, but 108 miles.
A couple of hours in the car at least?
Oh, yeah. These days, I think it'd be more like 4 hours in the car.
I follow the English Premier League, and Bournemouth are in the Premier League now, and they just won their first game.
My wife and I were talking about that just the other night. My father was a firm supporter. They used to be called Bournemouth and Boscombe. And, well, they started off in the 3rd division, and they went down to the 4th division. They got relegated many, many years ago. And my father, God bless him if he was still alive, would be cheering in his coffin at the moment, you know?
It was a big day, big celebrations.
Just brilliant. Yes, it brought home a bit of the past when I was a kid. Dad used to take me there, and we got to know the guy that was doing all the announcing there, a guy called Cyril Freeman. He became quite a name, and he was the voice of Bournemouth and Boscombe. He was the guy that used to shout over the tannoy, "Behave yourselves, fans," you know. And so we got the privilege of being in his little box there. Hail, rain, snow, it didn't matter, but it's just wonderful memories.
What happened to Boscombe then? What was that, a nearby town or something?
Yeah, Boscombe was just up the road. It's about 2 miles from Bournemouth, and it's another little township, but really it's all part of Bournemouth.
Now they're Bournemouth, and, well, let's hope they stay in the Premier League, because it's not that easy.
Well, it isn't at the moment with the standard of football, but I haven't followed them. That's the sin about it. I haven't been following what's happened to Bournemouth, but as soon as I heard that on one of our news items over here, I thought, my goodness gracious me, we are progressing.
Well, Bournemouth Football Club or Soccer Club, they're probably 100 or so years, and so this is their first foray into the top flight.
Yeah, wouldn't know the day they started, but I can remember going along there and watching a young Stanley Matthews, who used to play for Blackpool at that time, who became world-renowned, of course, and getting his autograph afterwards, which was a great thrill as a kid. The memories.
Now, I suppose we better talk about music. Now, you mentioned your father. He was a big music fan, and that's sort of how it came down to you. Is that right, Roy?
Well, yes, Dad was. Dad used to listen to the kind of music that really wasn't that popular during the war years and after the war. He was listening to Count Basie, Duke Ellington, those big bands, Woody Herman Band, listening to vocalists like Ella Fitzgerald, and even to the Mario Lanzas. Dad used to like that. My mother wasn't so keen on all that stuff. She thought it was quite unchristian music, you know, and you shouldn't bastardize music in that way. But, yeah, he sunk his claws in me and says, "Hey, son, listen to this. And if you want to do anything with music," he says, "listen to the best first of all." He says, "and then do what you like."
Which is, I think, what you did there, Roy.
Well, I tried. I took his advice, and I became a fan of the jazz and the blues and right down to the classics. But all in all, I was listening to good music thanks to him. Dad, he had this knack of surprising me when I was a kid, and one day I went in there and there was a piano. He bought a piano for about £5. And and wanting me to have lessons on this piano. Well, sure enough, I did, and it lasted 2 weeks because of the teacher I had, which was a local lady called Ada Sharp, and what a name for a music teacher, A. Sharp. And she used to rap my knuckles with a wooden ruler if I didn't do anything right. And that put me right off.
Well, Roy, that's child abuse these days.
You ain't kidding. My God, I wish that dear old soul was alive these days. I'd sue her to high heaven.
Oh, well, look, it could have been worse. She could have been A to flat, and then she'd be an A flat, wouldn't she?
Yes. So I decided, so talking about A flat, I remember writing a piece of music later on in the years called Seduction in A flat, if you know what I mean.
That's a bit of a double meaning, I think, there, Roy, but I could be mistaken.
Double entendre, yes.
Obviously, you must have gone back to the piano or the keyboards of some sort, because you're best known for being a keyboard player. But when you first started joining bands, it was as a guitar player, I assume.
Yeah, it was, yeah. I started listening to a guy called Chet Atkins. Subsequently, I met Chet many, many years later. He had this wonderful fingerstyle thing. So I joined a sort of a semi-country band in Bournemouth, doing mostly Everly Brothers type of stuff. And this is while I was still doing an apprenticeship at the newspaper where I used to work at. I was an apprentice as a photographic engraver. And during the nights, I was playing with a duo called the Dowland Brothers, and they used to write an awful lot, but mostly doing this Everly Brothers thing. And we used to do town halls from all over the South Coast doing their show. When I went to London, finished my apprenticeship and just toddled off to London and thinking I want to get in the music business somehow. And I got as a session guitar player with a guy called Joe Meek and learned a hell of a lot from Mr. Meek. And he was recording people like the Tornadoes and the Honeycombs and even early Tom Jones. He was doing some stuff. I was just a session boy for that. I mean, to cut this whole thing, because that was a long period of time ago, the new bass player of the Tornadoes was Tab Martin. Now, Tab and I decided we wanted to get out of the Joe Meek situation, so we went up the north of England to try and find ourselves, I suppose you'd say. And we started playing in between country music and jazz, and finally got onto the Motown type of thing. And went to Manchester, and then we formed the Peddlers.
And the rest is history. So, did you record with the Dowlands? Because they had about 8 or 10 singles.
Yes, I did. I recorded about 3 or 4 with them.
They had a hit. They covered the Beatles' All My Lovin', so they obviously got off the Everly Brothers and started imitating somebody more successful. And the Beatles were partially imitating the Everly Brothers anyway.
Well, yes, I was going to get to that, yeah. Yes, everybody was influenced then, you know. I mean, God bless the Beatles. I used to know them when they were the Quarrymen working in Germany. But we were all influenced by an awful lot of people, too numerous to name. Every week we were searching the American music side of the industry just to pick up things. The Peddlers got to London and with nowhere to go and nowhere to work, and we dropped into a club just off of Shaftesbury Avenue, Leicester Square area, called the Pickwick Club. Went in there just to have a drink. Found out it was the show business club there. Most of the theatres, 26 or 28 theatres, inner London, Soho, in Theatreland in London. We got a job there. He says, you can come and work here for a month. This was Harry Seacombe, and Wolf Mankiewicz used to own this place.
The writer?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And they offered us a month's gig there. We ended up doing 18 months, and during that period of time, everything happened, really. We were doing radio shows, far too many TV shows. People got absolutely tired of you. In those days, to do that these days, it would cost a fortune. To be able to get on these things like Frost shows and early Parkinson, Simon D shows, it would cost a lot now, and the old publicity people would have to be working 25 hours a day to do it. We were lucky because all these people used to be at this club.
I've got a little album. You might be familiar with it. It's called Live at the Pickwick.
Good Lord, yes.
And I think he's a DJ, and he introduces you guys, and then he name drops all your fans. Frank Sinatra, Princess Margaret, Bill Wyman, Jeremy Clyde, who we've had on the show, and his great-great-great-grandfather was the Duke of Wellington.
Oh, really?
Yes, and...
Good heavens, I didn't know that about the old...
Yes,
so-and-so?
yes. Didn't publicise it. And he was actually a page boy at Princess Elizabeth's coronation, soon to be Queen Elizabeth.
Good Lord.
Yes.
Oh, we were mixing with royalty even then. Princess Margaret used to come down there an awful lot.
Was she as wild as they paint her out to be?
She was, and she was also just a lovely human being. She wasn't part of the royals, really, only in name, in birth. She was the kind of lady that lived next door. That's the way she treated you, but she used to love the people in the entertainment industry, and they all treated her as Margaret. In fact, she insisted on everybody calling her Margaret, or Marg. Yeah, the Queen Mother's cousin used to go there, Henry Beaujolais. Henry was always down there. But usually the place was just absolutely chock-a-block with actors, actresses, wannabes and Wilbys and,
Swinging London, Roy, I think it was called, wasn't it?
Yeah. They say if you remember the 60s, you weren't there.
But you do. You do, though.
For all sorts of reasons.
Roy, look, I just want to backtrack a little bit because I want to talk about the Saints, because I've dug up a couple of Saints records, and I'm assuming that your first recorded composition would have been with the Saints. I think it's on the B-side of Wipeout. Midgets.
Midgets, oh my goodness, yeah. Well, that wasn't actually the Saints that did that. I did all that in Joe Meek's studio by multi-tracking.
He was way ahead of his time.
Oh, he was, yeah. Joe was just a total innovator. He was an amazing character. He was always in the newspapers for the wrong reasons, and everybody got mixed up in it because that would be the contention of the day. If Joe hit the headlines in the Evening Standard, famous record producer doing this and doing that, or fined for this or fined for that. He loved it. Just loved it. I went along for a session that morning. I hadn't listened to the radio. Good Lord, we're going back now, aren't we? We were all due for sessions. I think Tab, my bass player. So we went along 247 Holloway Road and climbed the old stairs. By the time we got there, it was cordoned off. The whole area was cordoned off. Subsequently, we found what Joe had done. He'd shot Mrs. Shenton, who owned a leather shop underneath, with her husband, and she used to take him up his morning cup of tea and a bun or whatever. Yes, all hell had broken loose that night. And,
do you know the circumstance? Was he late in the rent? I can't imagine him being late with the rent.
No, it wasn't anything. Yes, I do know the circumstances, but they have sort of come out, but I think they should remain where they were. No, Joe had flipped his lid completely. By that time, he'd flipped his lid. A few things that were up in the air with reasons why, but most of us knew why. I don't really like to talk about that because some remaining members of Joe's family are still around,
Roy, I want to mention, because how I got into the Peddlers and my son, we got into the Peddlers differently, but in the same way. I saw a movie in the mid-80s called Goodbye Gemini, and that was only released in Australia and in England. It's a very obscure film, and remember the title song. It was a Peddlers song. And just going back before that, you actually appeared in a film called Sing and Swing, way back in 1963.
Yes, I know. That was just before my hair turned grey.
No.
Yeah.
It wasn't that stressful, was it?
Oh, I think so, yes. I'm going to make it out to be. I'm forever the hero here. Yeah. There was a lot of those kind of films going around at that time because Cliff was doing well and Billy Fury was doing well. And so a lot of us got an opportunity through that to take part in these movies.
You probably didn't come across these people, or maybe you did, but there was a couple of Australians in the cast.
Really?
Yes, there was, I think she was known as Patsy Ann Noble back then, Tricia Noble.
Oh, yes, that's right. Yeah. I do know, yes. Yeah, that's right.
But there was also a man who came back to Australia after he did Sing and Swing. He must have had enough after that film. He became quite famous here. I don't know, Roy, if you know the TV show Skippy the Bush Kangaroo.
Of course I do, yes.
And he played the father. Now, he was one of the cast of Sing and Swing.
What's his name?
Ed Devereaux.
Ed Devereaux. No, I remember Skippy, but I don't remember Ed.
Well, he was the father. He was the father of Skippy, Roy.
Was he? Oh, my God, what a strange person.
I mean, Skippy was the family pet, so he was the father of Sonny, his name was, the kid in Skippy. But also, besides Kenny Ball and the Jazzmen in that film, Gene Vincent, I don't know if you got a chance to meet him.
Yes, yes. I toured with Gene Vincent. A guy called Larry Parnes used to run these shows around England. He managed Billy Fury, Marty Wilde, oh my goodness, quite a few more. And they used to bring over people like Gene Vincent. And I did work with him in England doing one of these tours where all you could hear was screams from kids, that's all. Nothing else, just screams. So we might as well put some cardboard cutouts up there and be mute. But no, I didn't really enjoy those days too much.
Also, just going through the cast, there was also he was called Stephen Marriott, but he was set for future fame and fortune. And
absolutely.
And some guy that you filled in for him because he wasn't around, and he went on to a band called Deep Purple.
That's right, that was Richie, the guitar player. Or Richie was, first met him in the old Joe Meek days. Richie was also doing sessioning stuff and playing a lot with a guy called Hines. And he had a band with Chaz Hodges from Chaz and Dave, as they are now, called The Outlaws. And they used to back the American artists. They were very, very good musicians, you know, when they come over, Jerry Lee Lewis's and those type of people. And Richie didn't turn up one night, been drinking some falling over water. He didn't turn up, so I got the gig playing with Jerry Lee Lewis. And Jerry Lee Lewis said something about my drummer, Trevor Morace, and he refused to go on stage with Trevor. The reason was he was prejudiced. He had this colour prejudice. We all pulled away and said, "You can go to hell, mate. Don't want to know people like you." So in point of fact, he did apologise, and we did go on and play the show with him, but it was a kind of behaviour that just totally not acceptable. That was all because Richie hadn't turned up.
Just getting back to the films, so Goodbye Gemini, did you ever see the movie?
Yes, I did.
A strange little movie.
It was, wasn't it? The music caught on. Don Black's and my music really caught on there.
Oh, that's one of my favourite Peddlers songs, Tell the World I'm Not In.
It really worked. When Don came with the idea and was done with just a guitar backing, and he says, "What can we do with this?" He says, "I'm in it for a film." So we got together, and that's how it was. I'd not long had a wah-wah fitted to the Hammond organ, and so he says, "Come on, use something, have something extravagant." And so we did, and it was all over in a day, actually, that particular song recorded, ready.
That wah-wah, that makes the organ sound. I mean,
yeah, that's right. Yeah.
I'm trying to do my best. Yeah.
I tell you, that was better than I did it.
Well, you must have done it pretty bad.
Yeah. Oh. Is there no comeback with you?
Now, look, Roy, I got to tell you, I'm the world's worst Hammond organ impersonator.
Oh, yeah, okay. Well, that makes two of us.
Now, before Goodbye Gemini, there was Lost Continent featured a woman called Dana Gillespie. I don't know if you ever came across her in your...
Yes, I did, yes. Briefly.
Speaking of royalty, I think she was related somehow. I'm not sure, because she hung around with Princess Margaret in Martinique.
Oh, yeah.
But the Lost Continent, so how did you get these movie gigs, Roy?
All down the Pickwick Club in Great Newport Street. As I say, the majority of people that were really very, very important in the industry either went down there to chat about business or to relax after their performances or whatever from the theatres and recording studios and you know what. And a guy called Philip Martell that used to run the horror film company. Good Lord, what are they called?
Hammer,
that's right, with Michael Carrera as one of the directors and producers of the majority of those films. And Philip caught me as I was going home one night, and he says, "We got this film, it's about this, and it's a crazy thing, and have a think about it, and if you fancy it, come and watch a few rushes." So I duly went and saw the rushes and went home, as they say, and got this song together for it and ended up doing the entire movie, really.
Did you compose the music with Gerald Schumann, I think his name was?
Nah, you see, Gerald's music was rejected. And all mine was taken up. I think they used one of his for some incidental stuff in the actual movie. I was surprised when they used All Mine, so that's the truth of that story. All the songs in the actual film were mine.
Well, you know what? A lot of Australian musicians came over to England in the 1960s. A lot of very talented ones, I might say, and none of them made it. Or maybe the Easy Beats did, but it was so hard to get through that system.
I shared an office with Cliff Richards and the Shads and Olivia Newton-John, and she was an absolute sweetheart.
I mean, she didn't hit it big until the early 70s, but in the 1960s, it was hard to break through. But then again, Robert Stigwood, I don't know if you ever came across him. He was from...
Yes, of course.
He came from Australia.
Yep, that's right.
We've had Jack Bruce on the show, and sadly the late Jack Bruce. And Jack Bruce had things to say about our old friend Robert to do with financial things. So don't lend him any money.
Oh, I see. No, I think you could say that about quite a few. Not only Australian, but the world ones. I know we were duped out of an awful lot of money.
Well, they say that none of the artists of the 1960s, and we're talking even the Beatles, actually made big money until the 1970s when they renegotiated contracts and had decent lawyers looking through contracts and things like that. The Kinks, boy, were they angry. I mean, they recorded a whole album of how they got ripped off, Lola versus Powerman and the Money Go Round.
Okay, more fools us. We were behind the door, as you might say. I hate to think of those things. I mean, we've had very successful albums. Last count, up to 45 million albums were sold, either my recordings or standard material or whatever. And I didn't see a minute amount of money from those things. It's upsetting, actually.
I think a lot of people would be very upset. I'm going to speak about Breaking Bad. One of your songs featured in Breaking Bad, and the climax of Breaking Bad is sung by a man who that financial difficulty actually caused him to suicide, and that was Pete Ham of Badfinger.
Really?
Yes, that's how extreme it was. They say that he was very depressed with the financial wheelings and dealings going on around him.
Yeah, they were going to use yet another track on Breaking Bad, but finally came to that one on a clear day. My goodness, that was a bit of a success, wasn't it?
Well, the show, Roy, according to the main film website, is called the Internet Movie Database, and Breaking Bad is the highest rated TV show ever made. And there's been a lot of TV shows made, Roy, as you might imagine. So they rate that as the best TV show ever made. And it's hard to disagree because I've recently watched the TV show. The stories are compelling, but also, Roy, the music is used so brilliantly, their choice of music, and how could you go wrong with a Peddlers song anyway?
Well, thank you.
But their choice, impeccable.
Yes, it's a rather surprising song for that particular scene. But once you get into it, it's that bizarre, it worked. The
whole story is contrary. It plays one side and then the other side, and when your song comes on, the place is full of smoke, and then on a clear day you can see forever. It's just a brilliant juxtaposition, and that's what the songs do in a lot of the episodes, is that juxtaposing of complete opposites, which I think artistically works brilliantly. Yeah, I heard that, was it season 5 or season 3 or something like that? It has gone up over the 20 million mark in sales for the DVDs. Roy, it's just unbelievable. There is still a chance you might get that $45 million of yours. Wouldn't that be lovely? Yeah. We hope. We just cross our fingers, cross everything else that is crossable, and sit here and hope. Actually, somebody in England working on the royalty situation for that. So hope it goes well, but they're dealing with Sony Records, which could be a bit of a problem. Any of those big companies. But, I mean, casting the money aside, which is hard to do, the thing is that the TV show being so popular, it brings new people to Roy Phillips music, so that can't be a bad thing. No, it's been wonderful. I can't thank them enough for that, As you know, it does help. It does help considerably, particularly with the new recordings that I'm doing now, And people can put a name to a face to a name, etc., a name to a situation, and that's what it's all about. Exactly. The Peddlers recorded live in Amsterdam. That's a bit of a curio, only released in New Zealand. I
I believe it was, yes.
So you three guys, you, Tab and Trevor?
No, that's a new bunch of guys that one of the last tours to do in Holland, and the band had disbanded.
What year are you talking, Roy?
75, 76, somewhere around about that. I'm pretty hopeless on dates, actually. And I picked up some London boys that fitted right in the slot and did this tour in and around, well, all around Holland and parts of Germany. One guy came along and said, I want to record you, and did it all through me. I still own basically the rights of that album.
You've just released it in New Zealand?
Well, we released it in New Zealand to comply with a tour I was doing over here. Many years ago, too. Yeah, good Lord, all this history.
There's a couple of albums I want to ask you about. Well, of course, Birthday was probably your biggest commercial success, and you had a big hit single with that, Birth, and Birthday made it very high on the charts. But the curious one is Dancing with Shadows, one of your New Zealand-only albums?
Yeah, that was recorded here in New Zealand in 1999. It was released in 2000, I believe. That's an album of all my material, and it was recorded in a place called Monganui over here. One of the best bass players in the world lives up there and owns a studio, a guy called Billy Christian. And Billy wanted to record it, and that was it. And we put the album together up in his studio in Monganui.
My favourite Peddlers album, because it's not often that you hear a whole orchestra on I'm going to call it a rock album, but the orchestra sounds fantastic with the Peddlers. I'm talking about Sweet London. So how did that come about? Your voice is such a powerful voice too, that it goes really well with the orchestra.
Oh, thank you. That came about, we had another album to do, so I had a whole bunch of songs, and they were all a little bit bizarre and basically concentrated on my home in London, or place I lived. And then a guy called Pete Robinson, who's another fine organist, a Hammond organist, heard this, and he said, I would like to do some arrangements of that, and let's make a storyline. So by hook or by crook, it worked out quite beautiful because we booked the Royal Philharmonic Orchestra, took over Air Studios in Oxford Circus, I think it was. It was owned by George Martin. Took over that and used the big studio there and went to town with this Sweet London. And yes, it took the industry quite by surprise. And then all of a sudden it died.
What happened?
It died. Well, they weren't playing stuff on the radio, but as I say, all of a sudden, if I can use that expression, it then became vogue to play this thing, and it started getting fantastic reviews. And they started re-releasing the album, and yes, it's a huge seller even to this day. Well, it wasn't the first time I'd worked with a large orchestra in a studio. We did that with Freewheelers, another album called Freewheelers, and subsequently toured with Freewheelers, but we never toured with Sweet London. They were just a fantastic musicians. The Philharmonic are the sort of the eyebrows of the music industry, and you could not really tell them how to play it. You couldn't write it. So the idea was to let them have their not exact feels, because they were going to be conducted on this, but to leave each player to play how they normally played during their classical things. And it worked. We didn't pressure them to say, oh, we want this to sound poppy here or that. They just played, and sometimes they're very late in their comeuppance. There's no such thing as a raised note with these people, where you anticipate a note and play it just before the one, as you might say. These people just did it as they played. They were not forced at all to follow the arrangement or be poppy or in any way. They were basically invited to jazz up their thoughts on how an arrangement should go or how a song should go. And there was no arguments. It was just a very, very happy occasion, actually.
Aren't they a little bit snobby, especially to the pop rock field like that?
Oh, yeah, totally. These guys kept looking at their watches all the way through the session. I can remember one of them. I think he was he was the lead violinist. He was the guy that everybody answered to, and with a tweed-type hat on with fish hooks all around it. And he's looking at his watch all the time and telling me about the best times to fish in the rivers and goodness knows what. And he didn't want to miss that time.
No, well, I don't blame him. I don't blame him, Roy. Well, look, the thing is, the proof is in the pudding and it works. It just sounds spectacular, and it's been released on CD, which is, I don't know if you like an orchestra sounding in digital or analogue, but to me, it sounds great.
Another satisfied customer.
There you go, Roy. I just want to get back to your early days, Joe Collins.
Joe Collins was our first agent. Joe was the father of Joan Collins. I still quote Joe when we were taken to his office, because he was our very first agent. We were confronted with this rather rotund man with a cigar that had burnt down past his whiskers, with ash all down the front of his suit, and the whole place smelt like a tobacconist shop. But he was very renowned as Mr. Vaudeville, as you might say, in London. And I still remember Joan there working in his office, coming in and running errands for her daddy. And he said to us, in this industry, boys, you need 10% talent, just 10%. He says, 10%, and you need 90% of the greatest luck in the world, and you are looking at him right now. That's what Joe said to us. So that was the first thing. He started getting us Palladium gigs and goodness knows what.
He did all right with his daughter Joan anyway. I think he got her a few acting gigs.
He did. He was a fantastic character.
How long was he your agent for, Roy?
I think about 2 to 3 years, and then we went over and joined a company called Actors Built, which, as I say, they're shared with Cliff and the Shadows and Livy Newton-John, Labby Sifri, and those people.
The Peddlers. Now, so what happened at the end there? So you broke up roughly in the mid-70s?
Yeah.
What happened there? You guys had had enough, or too much success too soon?
I wish it was the latter. No, we had a few disagreements. The drummer, Trevor Moraes, he wanted to branch out and do something different. He'd been doing it for too long now. Trevor had ants in his pants to go out and do other things with other people. And he went to work with Roger Whittaker for a while. I forget who else. Tab wanted to do session work in London, and that's basically what Tab, I think he went to work for Decca. So I had to get new people together just to continue the music that I enjoyed playing, and I know we had a hell of an audience out there, and that's the way that worked out. But Trevor now is living in Spain. He runs a successful recording studio over there. What's the name of that Icelandic girl?
Björk.
Björk, and he did a lot of things with Björk. He's done very, very well for himself, Trevor. As already told you, Tab is not well, and so we're hoping and praying for a bit of a miracle there.
So you emigrated, and that's why we're talking to you in New Zealand. If our listeners don't know, that you emigrated to New Zealand in the early 80s. So normally, there's an old saying, English people, they don't emigrate to New Zealand, they go to Spain or Portugal. So you went to the other side.
I never thought of it that way. Yeah.
But anyway, what was your reason for picking up sticks and going to New Zealand?
Just something new. I think I wanted to start over again somehow, and I was quite an experimental period of my musical career, and since then, I mean, if you listen to my new recordings, there's slight differences and slight progressions, but I'm definitely changing all that. I think the reason was I love this country. It offered me a little bit of freedom. You could stretch your arms out. I've been living in cities all my life, and I could stretch my arms out and breathe a little bit easier. And first of all, look what greeted me in Christchurch. Earthquakes.
Yes,
and,
we heard about that.
Yeah, very strange, you know. So there again. But no, I think in all honesty, I just wanted to get out of England. I'd lost my dad. I think it was just time to spread my wings a little bit and do something that I really wanted to do myself. That's my honest answer.
A sea change, we call it here. You might call it the same there in New Zealand.
Yeah. It reminds me so much of home, too. I mean, the weather's just so bloody awful half the time. But,
Roy, it's not a sea change for you, it's an ocean change.
yeah, you ain't kidding. Yeah.
Now, Roy, you mentioned a bit of your new music. Now, I've been listening to The Blue Groove, which is your new album, and I just want to mention royphillips.org is your website. There's also a Peddlers website, thepeddlers.co.uk. The first thing I noticed, it wasn't the traditional Hammond organ. I call it a sort of a moodier feel that you've got with this. Maybe it's just this particular album. I especially like Blue Groove, and also love the First Light track, which is the last track.
There's Hammond organ on about 4 of those tracks. It is not heavily featured. I think the heavily featured organ on one of the tracks is Key Preacher, which I wrote for an old friend, Billy Preston. And when Billy passed away, one of his last gigs was in Georgia. So I wrote the song Key Preacher, and it's all about that last show he did.
Even in your Peddler stuff, you love Georgia, don't you?
Yes, I do.
Never been to Georgia. Georgia on my mind.
Yeah, yes. I've only ever been there once, but it sums up an awful lot of musical memories for me. Georgia and its surroundings.
To all our American listeners, of course, we've got a lot of listeners in Florida, Roy.
I used to play at the Eden Rock Hotel with Mel Torme and Lionel Hampton Big Band.
The Velvet Fog.
Yeah, Mel was an old friend from home anyways, from London.
Did you cast your fate there, Roy, to the wind?
It was Mel and Sinatra that first took us to America and into Vegas for God knows how many seasons we did.
Roy, I just got to ask you, why do you think the Peddlers were so admired by fellow showbiz?
Yeah. We got that dreadful title, The Darlings of. That's ridiculous. So I draw the line there. If there was a ship to launch by a royal, then we had to go and play at the party, you know? We used to do Windsor Castle Christmas gigs and God knows what for them. And it was accepted then, and rather unaccepted by the fans who thought we were a little bit up ourselves and what have you. It wasn't our fault, mate. They kept booking us and paying us money.
Anyway, look, Roy, I've got to leave it there. I want to wish you all the best, and you've got such a wonderful back catalogue as well with all that fabulous Peddlers material. Don't take it from me, because the most successful people in the world in TV are Breaking Bad. They agree that the Peddlers obviously deserve an airing in their fabulous show, so they're fans as well. Just want to say that you've given a lot of people a lot of pleasure with that fantastic voice and those fantastic keyboard skills.
Thank you for your time, and love to everybody.
Thank you very much, Roy.